What's up you guys, and welcome to my channel. So for today's video, I thought it would be really fun to share a perfume updates video with you guys. This is all perfumes that I've hauled recently, and I just wanted to talk about them and let you know what I'm keeping, what I'm decluttering, and what I'm undecided on. Recently, a lot of my videos have been sort of first impressions where I'm smelling the perfume with you guys for the first time, and sometimes those videos can be very deceiving because you may initially really like a perfume and then you wear it on yourself and you're like, oh wow, this isn't really what I thought it was, or maybe the longevity isn't there, or the other way, you might initially really dislike something and it grows on you. So today I'm going to be sharing sort of an updates video with you guys just to let you know what worked and what didn't work for me. And this is going to exclude my most recent haul just because it's only been about a week or so of having those fragrances and I'm still getting to know them, so I didn't want to talk about them just yet. So the first perfume we're going to be talking about is Britney Spears Fantasy Intense, and this is definitely going to be one that I will be keeping. This is just a love for me. This is sort of one of those perfumes that really made me want to try sort of every Britney Spears fantasy flanker. This is a lot different than I thought it was going to be, but in a very good way. This is sort of woody and it has patchouli, and it definitely has the original Fantasy DNA, but this is sort of like the grown-up sister of Fantasy. If you like the scent of Fantasy, but it's just a little bit too young for you, a little bit too juvenile, I would definitely give Fantasy Intense a chance. It's just so beautiful and a little bit more elevated and grown up, and I absolutely love this one. So again, this is so similar to the OG Fantasy, but this is just a little bit more rich, a little bit more deep and dark. And let's get into the notes of this one. Its top notes are lychee, kiwi, and pear. Its middle notes are white chocolate, cupcake, jasmine, and orchid. And its base notes are patchouli, woodsy notes, musk, and orris. And I also want to mention that this was super affordable. I got this at Ross for $20, and it's a giant 3.3 ounce fluid bottle. I can definitely smell the patchouli, but it's not the first thing that you're going to smell. It's kind of like well blended and somewhat in the background. So for that reason, I would say that this is sort of a winter, fall, or nighttime fragrance, but honestly, I love it so much that I'm going to wear this all year round. If patchouli really isn't your thing, I would still consider giving this one a chance just because I think this honestly might be a nice like introductory to patchouli. I think because of how sweet it is, it has that cupcake and white chocolate. It has sort of like a light patchouli, so that way it's not an overwhelming patchouli, but one that's like I said, an introductory to patchouli. I would say that if maybe you're more into sort of like department store perfumes or expensive perfumes and celebrity scents really aren't your thing, I would still give this a chance and just give it a try because it's that beautiful, that gorgeous, and this one really surprised me. It's sexy, and I honestly think this could almost be sort of a Victoria's Secret scent. Okay, so the next fragrance that I'm going to be talking about is Britney Spears Prerogative, and this has top notes of apricot, goji berries, and pink pepper, middle notes of coffee, saffron, and red lily, and base notes of sandalwood and amberwood. So I got this for $12 and it's a 1 ounce bottle, and I'm going to be completely honest, on first impressions I did not like this. It was just way too floral, and I think that because the first perfume that this is compared to on Fragrantica is Black Opium, on initial spray this smelled nothing like Black Opium, so I was a little disappointed. And the strange thing about this fragrance is that upon initial spray, every single time I'm like, ooh, I don't think I like this. And once it dries down after about 15 minutes, it's actually really delicious and smells a lot like Black Opium. It's sweet, sexy, seductive, and a little bit spicy. I will be keeping this because it's a really pretty fragrance, and I definitely do see the similarities between this and Black Opium, but the downside to this is that it really doesn't project. It's very light. I think that unless you were right next to me, I really don't think anyone would be able to smell this, and it doesn't have the greatest lasting power. I would say if I sprayed on my clothes and I actually sniff my clothes, I definitely can smell it, but if I were to spray it on my skin, it would just disappear after probably about 20 minutes. This is marketed as a unisex fragrance, and I really don't understand why, because I find this to be very feminine. And again, it is very similar to Black Opium, but I would say it's kind of like if Black Opium were watered down to about 5%. That is prerogative. I'm going to be keeping this. I think it's pretty enough to keep. I don't want to return it because, again, it was only $12 for a 1-ounce bottle, but I don't know if I would repurchase this just because, again, it is so light. But for now, this is something that is going to be staying in my collection, and I honestly think I'm going to use it up because it's so light that I think a 1-ounce bottle will probably only last me maybe about 6 months. If this weren't so light and so skin-like, I think that I would adore this and like it a lot more than I do, but because its performance is pretty bad, that's the only reason I'm kind of giving it criticism, but other than that, it is a really beautiful scent. Okay, so up next we're going to be talking about Dolly Parton's Scent from Above, and I recently got this on my last Ross blind buy haul, and this has top notes of pear, peony, blackcurrant, and mandarin orange, middle notes of jasmine, vanilla orchid, and lily of the valley, and base notes of musk, amber, sandalwood, tonka bean, fir, and patchouli. Okay, so this was one that I ended up returning. There was just something about it that was a little bit screechy for me and just really wasn't something that described me as a scent that I like. It wasn't a bad scent by any means, but again, it just wasn't something that described me at all, and I found it to be a little bit mature for myself. Even though it was a mature scent, there was something actually very girly and very sweet about it. When I first sprayed it, I got a lot of that amber, a lot of sort of like piney notes, and for that reason I kind of felt like it was more of a winter scent. And I think a lot of the reason that I ended up returning it was because, we're currently in spring, we're approaching summer, and that was just way too heavy of a perfume. I would have probably had better I would have liked it a little bit more had it been maybe in the fall or winter that I bought it, but I think that because of that, it just made me dislike it a little bit more. I hope this doesn't offend anyone who likes this scent, but this reminds me of something my grandma would wear, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that it would just describe someone who's a little bit older, and my grandma actually smells really good. All of her perfumes on her smell really, really good, but it just wasn't something that described me. And if she lived near me, I would have probably given it to her, but I ended up just returning it because I know that that was a perfume that I know I'm not going to wear. One thing I will say about Dolly Parton's Scent from Above is that the perfume really changes with time. I did wear it a few times, and when I first sprayed it, you get a lot of that amber, a lot of like piney sort of outdoor mountainy type of a scent, but as it dries down really sweet and really pretty, but again, it just wasn't for me, so for that reason I decluttered it. Okay, so the next fragrance I'm going to be talking about is Jennifer Aniston's Solstice Bloom, and its top notes are smoke tree, solar notes, white pepper, middle notes of sand, gardenia, and jasmine, and base notes of smoke, white musk, sandalwood, and amber. So this is one that I am definitely going to be keeping. I think this one is so beautifully done, and this one actually smells really expensive. This one is more of a skin scent. This one is very light. It's not as light as Brittany Prerogative, but it's very light, and it borderline just kind of smells like maybe you just smell lovely, if that makes sense. This is a beach scent. It smells very sandy, and it kind of just reminds me of something that my mom would have had on her perfume tray when I was a little kid. It just smells like maybe Dior or, just a classy fragrance. It just smells like somebody that is in their 30s. They're a classy woman and they really have their stuff together. If you are looking for a summer scent and you hate coconut, I would consider trying Jennifer Aniston's Solstice Bloom. There's no coconut. It's sort of just a solar, sandy, beachy scent, and I will definitely be using this summer. The next perfume I'm going to be talking about is J Lust by Jennifer Lopez, and if you watched my Ross haul, you would know that I just felt just okay about this one. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, but thankfully this is something that has really, really grown on me, and I actually really love this one. I'm really glad that I picked this up because Jennifer Lopez's fragrance are something that I feel like I've been overlooking whenever I see them prior to this fragrance. Whenever I would see them at like Ross or Walmart, wherever, I would kind of ignore it just because I've tried JLo Glow a long time ago, and that one didn't do anything for me. And then I tried her Miami Glow one, and again, it didn't do anything for me. And thankfully I gave this one a chance because it is so beautiful, and now I kind of want to revisit JLo Glow and try more of her scents because this is so beautiful. I know this sounds kind of weird considering this is a Jennifer Lopez perfume, but this is something I think that Jennifer Lopez would actually smell like. For some reason, I kind of picture her smelling kind of classy, kind of musky, and maybe a touch floral and fruity. I think that anyone who is 30 and older would really like this perfume, not because it's a mature scent, but I just picture someone who likes musky floral scents, or maybe like a Victoria's Secret scent, that they would really adore J-Lust. I guess the reason I say that I would picture Jennifer Lopez actually wearing this perfume is because I don't really picture her smelling like something really young or really overly sweet. This is kind of like right in the middle. It's a beautiful mix of fruity, floral, musky. So let's get into the fragrance notes. Its top notes are strawberry, apple blossom, and mandarin orange. And actually that strawberry is the reason that I picked this fragrance up. And its middle notes are vanilla orchid, white peach, jasmine, and its base notes are tonka bean, Toulouse balsam, and musk. The best way that I can describe this fragrance is that it's a very creamy strawberry, and it's also floral and musky. So that's pretty much this fragrance. It's really beautiful, and again, because of this, I really want to try more of her fragrances. The ones that I currently have my eye on from Jennifer Lopez is her perfume Still. I know that one has sort of like a tea note in it, which I don't think I own any fragrances with tea in it. So if that's something you've tried, let me know what you think about it. Do you like it? Do you hate it? And I've also been considering going back to Glow, just because it's been so long since I tried that one, and recently I've seen it at Ross. So again, if that's something you like, something you've smelled, let me know what you think about it, because I'm considering buying them, and they would definitely be blind buys because I would either have to get it at Ross or, find it on FragranceNet. Okay, so the next one I'm going to be talking about is Nicki Minaj Pink Friday, and I know this one is really popular. A lot of you really love it, so let's get into the notes. Its fragrance notes are starfruit, blackberry, and Italian mandarin. Its middle notes are lotus, star jasmine, and its base notes are caramel, pear, vanilla, musk, and woodsy notes. So the reason I got this and I was so intrigued by this one is because the first perfume it's compared to is Viva La Juicy, and I currently only have a travel like 0.23 ounce of Viva La Juicy, so I've kind of been using it sparingly, and when I heard that this is so similar, I'm like, okay, let me try it out, just because that way I can sort of have a cheaper alternative to a perfume that I already know I really love. So when I first smelled this, I smelled it on paper, and I'm like, I don't really understand why this is compared to Viva La Juicy, but when I sprayed it on myself, I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely see the similarities, but it just reminded me of like a Juicy Couture Viva La Juicy that went bad, or something was just really off about it. And I really think what ruined Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday for me was that starfruit, so for that reason, I decluttered it. So that starfruit kind of gave it this like odd sourness that really ruined the fragrance for me, and I think blended with that mandarin, the two were just really clashing, and on top of that, this was a really light fragrance, so I didn't like the scent itself, and then on top of that, it just wasn't really performing the way that I wanted it to, so for that reason, I decluttered it. I really wanted to like this because when I went on Fragrantica and I looked at the notes, it just all sounded so beautiful. Caramel, pear, that all sounds like something that I would really like. And on top of that, I like all the perfumes that it says that this perfume reminds me of. Like the first perfume that it says it's similar to is Someday by Justin Bieber. And I remember I had that perfume a long time ago, and I thought that perfume was actually really beautiful. I don't know how I would feel about it now because I'm a little bit older, but at the time I really loved that. The second one is Viva La Juicy. And again, I know I really love that one. And then another one it's compared to is Ari by Ariana Grande. And again, that's one that I really like. So I was disappointed that this one didn't end up working out for me. And I knew that if I kept it, I would just kind of be forcing myself to wear it. So for that reason, this one was a let it go. And it just, yeah, it didn't work out for me. So up next I have Fancy Love by Jessica Simpson, and I recently got this at Ross for $15, and this is in a small 1 ounce bottle, but it was well worth it because this is a love and I will definitely be keeping this one. So let's get into the notes for Fancy Love. Its top notes are peach blossom, champagne, and bergamot. Its middle notes are frangipani, jasmine, peony, lotus, and rose, and its base notes are amber, musk, woodsy notes, and patchouli. Based on the fragrance notes, I'm really surprised by this fragrance, and I'm glad that this is something I've tried before, because if I would have read the notes, I think I would have passed on this, just because patchouli, amber, champagne, they just all sound more like, I don't know, I guess like wintry or really heavy, but this is not that. This is a beautiful sort of floral champagne-y spring scent. Another note that I'm surprised to see in this is rose, just because for me, rose fragrances, I tend to not like, they tend to just be way too strong, but I really don't detect much rose in this. This kind of just smells very floral, but yeah, it's really beautiful. If you haven't tried Fancy Love by Jessica Simpson, I highly recommend it. I put this on my perfume tray video, and I've been reaching for this nonstop. I feel like this is just one that I want to wear every day, and I have to like kind of stop myself from wearing it every day. I'm like, no, you gotta wear all your perfumes, but this is one that I am constantly reaching for. I wore this the other day and I was out running errands, and I just kept kind of like forgetting that I sprayed it and getting whiffs of it on myself, and it was so beautiful. I absolutely love this one, and thankfully this isn't one that gives me a headache. It's not too potent, and it's not weak. It's kind of right in the middle. Like, the lasting power, I would say, is about a medium. I think that I can wear this for about 6 hours without having to reapply, and I only really need to spray like 2-3 sprays at the most, and it lasts me for about 6 hours. The first perfume that this is compared to on Fragrantica is Burberry Women, and I actually have that one, and I really like it. And it's funny because now that I know that those two are similar, I'm like, oh yeah, I really do see a similarity, but this is the springtime version of that one. The Burberry one, I would say, is a winter scent, and that one is strong. That one is one of those fragrances that if I want people to smell me, I will wear that one, because they will definitely smell you from like 10 feet away. And Fancy Love, by no means is it weak, but it's sort of like the lighter version of that one, and the springtime version of that one. They're both very sexy, a touch floral and sweet, and the patchouli is there, but it's not overwhelming. Again, it's kind of like the Britney Intense Fantasy, where there's definitely patchouli, but it's not gonna overpower the fragrance. It's kind of just there complementing all the other fragrance notes. If you're interested in Burberry Women, I would give Fancy Love a chance first, just so that way you can kind of like get a cheaper alternative. And if you know you like Fancy Love, I'm almost positive you will like Burberry Women. Recently, I've been seeing this at Ross in a 3.4 fluid ounce bottle for $20, and I've honestly been super tempted to get it. Even though I just got this and it's only 1 ounce, I know that I love it, and if I see the 3.4 ounce bottle, I might have to go get it, because that's how much I absolutely adore this perfume. Okay, so the next perfume that I'm going to be talking about is one that didn't work out for me, and one that I unfortunately had to declutter, and that is Fancy by Jessica Simpson. And this was such a disappointment for me, because I've owned Jessica Simpson Fancy in the past and I've absolutely adored it. And recently I found a 3.4 ounce bottle at Ross for $20, and I thought I hit the jackpot, because I know that I love that fragrance, and unfortunately the one that I had from years ago smells entirely different from whatever I was sold at Ross. The one that I was sold at Ross was just missing a lot of that gourmand, caramely sort of fragrance that I was used to, and the new one was more of a floral gardenia scent. So let's get into the notes for Jessica Simpson Fancy. Its top notes are apricot, pear, and red berries. Its middle notes are caramel, almond, gardenia, and jasmine. And its base notes are vanilla, amber, and sandalwood. So like I said, the new Jessica Simpson Fancy that I got, it was just so different from what I was used to. One thing I noticed was that the liquid in the big bottle that I recently got was very clear, and the one that I had in the past was almost like a light brown sort of color. So again, the new one was just way too floral for me and just an entirely different scent. The original was caramely, had a lot of that almond, maybe it was a touch floral, and it had a little bit of pear. But yeah, this new one just really didn't work out for me, which is really unfortunate because I adored the original Jessica Simpson Fancy. If you've ever tried Wicked by Victoria's Secret, that's a discontinued scent, but they occasionally bring it back for semi-annual sale. And I was recently able to get Wicked, I think last summer's semi-annual sale, like a year ago. And if you've ever smelled that one, that is the closest you're going to get to the original Jessica Simpson Fancy. Wicked is very sweet, and I would say instead of like an almondy caramel sweetness, it's more of like a brown sugar sweetness. So again, they're not identical, but they're very similar, and that Wicked fragrance is more similar to the original Fancy than the Fancy I recently got at Ross. Whenever I see other Fancies at Ross or at Burlington, I'm still tempted to get it just because that's how beautiful the original was, and a part of me wonders if maybe some of the older formulations of that fragrance are still kind of floating around those department stores, and maybe I just got a really new one and it just changed. But unfortunately, the one that I got didn't work out for me, so I returned that one. So up next, I have Intimate Fantasy by Britney Spears, and its top notes are lychee, Italian lemon, violet leaf. Its middle notes are brown sugar, ozonic notes, genet, jasmine, lily of the valley, and its base notes are vanilla, white musk, heliotrope, and benzoin. Okay, so when I first got this one in my collective haul video, I told you guys that I really wasn't sure about this. I really couldn't smell it, but this has turned into a love. I adore this fragrance. I never want to be without this one. It is so beautiful, so powdery, and so unique from any other perfume that I've ever tried. So this one is soft and skin-like, kind of like that Jennifer Aniston one, where it's not super noticeable unless you're like kind of right next to the person. But this one isn't as light as Britney Prerogative. Britney Prerogative just fades away, and this one doesn't. This is more just like, this almost just smells like you actually smell really good, and it's not a perfume. It doesn't smell like you're wearing anything, if that makes sense. It kind of just smells like you are a lovely, clean girl. This almost gives me like laundry or dryer sheet vibes, and that is in the most positive way that I can explain it. It's not in like a soapy way, it's more in just like a sort of, I don't know, like an airy, baby powdery kind of way. It's really stunning, and I would try it just because of how unique it is. This is so different from the original Fantasy. I'm honestly kind of surprised that this is a Fantasy flanker, just because the other Fantasies that I've tried, they tend to kind of have that same cupcakey, sweet, white chocolate DNA, and this one doesn't have that at all. This is more like lightly sweet, somewhat musky, and again, powdery and laundry-esque. And I think another reason I was initially disappointed by this one is because in the top notes there's lemon, and I really don't get lemon. If I were to smell lemon, my nose is kind of interpreting it in a clean laundry sort of way, not in like a fruity lemony kind of way. And the middle notes has brown sugar, which again, I get a sweetness, but it's not necessarily brown sugar that I smell, and it's very lightly sweet. It's not overly sweet. This is more of like a vanilla sweetness, but more in the background. This is more just like an airy baby powder type fragrance. So again, this is a love, and this is one that I find myself reaching for all the time. Okay, so the next one I'm going to be talking about is Britney Spears Believe, and this was super affordable. This was $16 for a 1.7 fluid ounce bottle, and its top notes are guava and tangerine, its middle notes are lime blossom and honeysuckle, and its base notes are patchouli, praline, and amber. It's funny that Britney Spears' Prerogative was considered a unisex fragrance, because to me, this one, I think out of all of her fragrances that I've smelled so far, this one is the most like masculine and unisex. And if you guys have tried this one, please let me know what you think about it, because I haven't decluttered it yet, but I feel like this one's on the chopping block just because I really don't know how I feel about it. I really wanted to like it, and I think the bottle is beautiful, but there's just something off about this one to me. The notes make this seem like it's gonna be absolutely beautiful. I love guava, but I tend to like my guavas to be sweet, and I thought this was gonna lean more sweet because it has praline and amber, but to me this is honestly just a patchouli bomb. The patchouli in Fancy Love and the patchouli in Britney Fantasy Intense, the patchouli in that one is more in the background, where this one is like 99% patchouli, which is why I'm like uncertain about this one. To me, this almost smells like a men's shaving cream or a men's body wash, just very masculine and in your face. I've also heard that this is one that has gone through a lot of changes, and this smells nothing like it once smelled. So if you own this and you've tried it, let me know what you think. Just because I find this one to be disappointing. A lot of people love this one, and unfortunately this one didn't work out for me. So I'm going to give it a little bit more time, but I have a feeling that I'm going to be decluttering this one. The patchouli is so strong that I honestly don't even smell the guava, which is really disappointing because the guava is one of the main reasons I wanted to try this fragrance. Another thing that kind of confuses me about this fragrance is that I wouldn't really know when to wear it, just because it kind of is like green and fresh, but again, it's a patchouli bomb, so I tend to wear sort of green fresh scents in the springtime, but because this is so patchouli heavy, I don't know. I don't know if it would be good for the winter or the spring. So again, if you guys have this and you've tried it, let me know what you think. I just find this perfume to be kind of confusing overall. One thing I will say about this though is that it is strong. This is probably the strongest Britney scent that I own. Her scents tend to be pretty light. So if this is just a scent that you know you like, this is very strong and it's going to last. Okay, so the next fragrance I'm going to be talking about is Couture Couture by Juicy Couture, and unfortunately this is one that I will not be keeping. This one just didn't work out for me, and I don't want to talk about this one too much just because I have an entire video on that, so if you're interested in that fragrance, go check out my video. I will link it down below, but let's get into the fragrance notes. Its notes are African orange flower, mandarin orange, grapefruit. Its middle notes are plum, jasmine, honeysuckle, and its base notes are amber, vanilla, and sandalwood. So this fragrance was very interesting because it was so different from any Juicy Couture fragrance that I've ever tried. This one was just very vintagey smelling. I can really smell that plum, but it was kind of like in a medicinal way. And it just smelled very like vintagey and something that you would smell like in the 80s. I will say though that it smelled expensive, and it didn't smell like something that you would find at Ross for $20. Like, it definitely smelled like an expensive perfume that you would get at Macy's, but it just didn't work out for me. It was too medicinal, too mature, and for that reason I will not be keeping it. So the next fragrance I'm going to be talking about is Fantasy by Britney Spears. And again, I don't want to take too long on this fragrance just because I feel like this is such a good one. I think most of us really like this, but let's get into the notes. Its top notes are kiwi, red lychee, and quince. Its middle notes are white chocolate, cupcake, orchid, and jasmine. And its base notes are musk, orris roots, and woodsy notes. And the reason I got this was because I fell in love with Fantasy Intense, and people were saying that it's very similar to Britney Spears' Fantasy, that I knew I wanted to try it. I feel like I just couldn't get enough of that fragrance, and I'm so happy to have this. It's different, but this is sort of the younger sister to that fragrance. So this is more of like a fun, flirty fragrance, where the other one is more just mature, you want to be taken a little bit more seriously, and this one is just more of like an everyday sweet fruity fragrance, and I absolutely love this one. Another reason I absolutely adore this is because I think this would make a really great layering perfume. I think this would complement so many body mists that I have, and I think I can come up with a lot of really fun sort of combinations with this, just because it has that fruity aspect, but it also has that gourmand aspect. So I'm really excited to be playing around with this one a little bit more. Okay, so the next one that I recently got and I'm going to be keeping is Midnight Fantasy, and I feel like out of all the fantasy flankers, this is probably the most popular one. I always see this one. I always hear people talk about this one, and for a good reason. It's a really beautiful fragrance. And let's get into the notes. Its top notes are plum, sour cherry, and raspberry. Its middle notes are orchid, iris, and freesia, and its base notes are vanilla, amber, and musk. So I think the iris in this is so pretty. I absolutely love iris, and again, this is a fragrance that I will be keeping because I just think that this would make a really great layering perfume. People have said that this smells like a blueberry shampoo, and I completely have to agree, but I also think that this is simple enough that you can come up with a lot of fragrance combinations. This is compared to Dark Kiss by Bath and Body Works, and ironically, I find Dark Kiss to be way more perfume-like than Britney Spears' Midnight Fantasy. I think that Midnight Fantasy is pretty light, and surprisingly, Dark Kiss for a body mist is very strong and very complex. So for that reason, I think that I will be layering them together because they're very similar, and I think they would just really complement each other. Another combination that I think would be really pretty because of that iris in Midnight Fantasy is one by Bath and Body Works. I'm kind of blanking on the name right now, but it's a iris sort of beautiful body mist. I think it's called Confetti Daydream, I want to say is what it's called. And I think that Midnight Fantasy would really sweeten it up, and they both have raspberry. So again, I think this is really pretty, and if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. So Midnight Fantasy, there's like nothing complex about it, but it's still kind of like a dark fragrance. Like I can picture myself wearing this around Halloween time, I think because of that plum and that sour cherry, but because it's so light, it's not like a perfume that's going to be really strong and project and something you can smell from 10 feet away. This is more of like a clean skin scent. So for that reason, I think that this could be worn all year round, even though it has kind of like deeper fruits in it like plum and cherry. I think because it also has a light, clean aspect to it, this is an all year round scent. So again, this one is really beautiful. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to be decluttering, this one didn't work out for me, and it's actually a Victoria's Secret scent. This was a blind buy, and unfortunately it just didn't work out for me, and that is Rapture. So the top notes for Rapture are orange blossom and citrus, its middle notes are Bulgarian rose, jasmine, and freesia, and its base notes are amber, heliotrope, vanilla, and musk. So this fragrance was very rose heavy. If you like Bulgarian rose, I think you should try Rapture, but unfortunately it was just way too rose heavy for me. I'm just not a lover of rose, and also that amber was very heavy, made it a very deep, heavy, thick winter scent. So this was very similar to Couture by Juicy Couture in the sense that it was very vintagey. It had that sort of 80s and 90s quality, and I actually used to work at Victoria's Secret a long time ago when I was 18, and I worked there during Christmas time, so I remember people were coming in and asking for fragrances, and older men that were buying perfumes for their wives for Christmas were the ones buying Rapture. So at the time, I didn't really think about it when I blind bought this, that people that were a little bit older were probably going to be the ones that liked it, but it was a blind buy. It didn't work out for me, but for the most part, I tend to love Victoria's Secret fragrances. It's just that this one didn't work out, but if you like rose, I think you should give Rapture a try. One positive thing, though, I will say about Raptures, even though I didn't like it, is that it was strong. If I sprayed this on a t-shirt or a hoodie, it's not until I washed it that I would stop smelling like it. So if I would give Rapture a try if you like rose, and I think you could really get your money's worth if you end up liking it, because again, it is really, really strong. So the next perfume I'm going to be keeping is Fantasy Sheer by Britney Spears, and this has top notes of citrus water, lychee, and quince. Its middle notes are water lily and lily of the valley, and its base notes are cupcake, white musk, iris, and woodsy notes. So I blind bought this before I had ever tried the original Fantasy, and they are very, very similar. The one thing I will say though is that this is like the more aquatic green version of Fantasy. So if Fantasy is just too sweet for you, I would try the Fantasy Sheer, because obviously it's a lot lighter. It's an EDT, and it's way more citrusy, and it also has iris in it, so there's definitely differences, but it does have that original Fantasy DNA. This is very sweet, but a little bit toned down. It's not as sweet as the original one, and again, it's way more green, it's way more aquatic, and this was super affordable. This giant 3.4 ounce bottle was only $20 at Burlington Coat Factory, so I will definitely be keeping this, and I think this is going to be really beautiful for spring and summer. So the next fragrance I'm going to be talking about is Viva La Juicy Glacé, and how beautiful is this bottle. This is the EDT version of it, and I just think the bottle is absolutely beautiful. I love how sort of tacky and girly this is. I just absolutely love it. So let's get into the top notes. Its top notes are sorbet, pear, cassis, and mandarin orange. Its middle notes are jasmine, orange blossom, and its base notes are vanilla, sandalwood, and amber. Alright, you guys, so this is one that if you've tried, can you please let me know your opinion on this one, just because I kind of find this one to be a little bit confusing. I recently hauled this at Ross for $35, and I thought that was a really great price. But this is just so different from the original Viva La Juicy. I'm honestly really surprised that I don't love it, just because I tend to love most of the Viva La Juicy flankers. I find this to be very green, very floral, and really missing that sweetness of the original Viva La Juicy. There's also sort of like an icy quality to this, so again, it's just kind of confusing me, because I would say that this is like the more wintry version of Viva La Juicy, but at the same time, because of how green it is, it's kind of giving me spring vibes. So this is the perfume that I'm wearing today, just because again, this is just one that's confusing me. I don't know if I want to keep it, I don't know if I want to declutter it, and now that I'm wearing it, for whatever reason, it's really reminding me of that Nicki Minaj Pink Friday one, and I'm thinking it's the mandarin orange clashing with some sort of floral note, in the same way that Nicki Minaj, that one was just clashing with the starfruit. I've been holding on to this one again just because I think the bottle is so pretty, and when I bought it, I initially got sort of like an icy vibe to it, so I was trying to hold off for winter and cold weather, because again, I just kind of have like a bias when it comes to Juicy Couture. I just absolutely love it. But now that I'm wearing it and I've given it enough chances on my skin, I'm just really not loving it. I'm almost kind of disliking it, even though I really don't want to dislike it. So for that reason, I have a feeling I'm going to give it away. I'm going to wear it a few more times, but every time that I've worn it so far, there's just something off-putting and green that I'm really not liking about it. So again, if this is something that you've tried, let me know your thoughts and what you think about it, and maybe because this is an EDT, not an EDP, there's just something a little bit different about it. So again, just let me know your thoughts. Alright, you guys, so that was my perfume updates video, and if you're still here, I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I hope you found this video to be helpful or entertaining. And if you like these videos, please like, comment, and subscribe, because it really helps me out. And again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one.